Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Holy Health. I'm Maureen Greer here at Dynamo Truth Health and Wellness, helping you to get a better brain, body, and beliefs through God's Word and giving you sound information, health and information based on God's Word, and trying to encourage you so that you can be experiencing better health in your brain, body, and in your beliefs, in your walk of faith, so that you're able to do God's will more vigorously. Today is another episode of Holy Health, and it's based on the sermon given on October 23rd by Pastor Zach. It's based on Daniel chapter 3, the fiery furnace. So we're going to jump right into this. I'm going to start reading. I'm not sure that I'm going to read the whole chapter today, but we're going to start, and one of my favorite Bible verses is in this chapter. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. 90 cubits or 60 cubits high is about 90 feet, I think, pretty high. And very, very important officials were at this ceremony. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "Nations and peoples of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. Commandment number 1, honor the Lord your God. Worship only him." What a challenge right away in the face of your faith. Therefore, as soon as they heard the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, and all kinds of music, all the nations and peoples of every language fell down and worshiped the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. At this time, some astrologers came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "May the king live forever. Your majesty has issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the image of gold, and that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into a blazing furnace. But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, your majesty. Neither serve your gods, nor worship the image of gold you have set up." So we have our 3 faithful followers of the Lord who will not obey the king's command here. And someone told on them. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" What a question. Then what God could rescue you from me? Well, there is a God in heaven who rescues us, and either through life eternal or through getting us through the storm here, either way, he rescues us, but we have to submit to that. I want to point out something that is wise. The king made sure he had proof of their failure to obey his law, which is something we should do. We shouldn't believe just anything we hear. We should make sure things that we hear are true. He was a king, and he actually made sure that it was true they want worship the image. He didn't go on just what his official had told him. I want you to consider that as you observe commercials and things that people say and claims about this secret weapon to combat your health or this one cure, it's going to do it for you. I want you to think about that. You research it out. Don't just blindly accept it, because there are a lot of people out there who want to make money off of you, and they make claims just so they get your money, not because their product works. Be responsible and wise and search it out like the king did. He's a foolish king. He's full of pride, yet he searched out the matter. Please do that, especially concerning your health. Every medication you take has a side effect. There should be a sound reason why you are taking it. And I will challenge you. You should only take it when you know you've done everything in your power that you can to combat your situation. Don't disregard what your doctor tells you. This is not medical advice, but it is an opportunity for you to think about what you can do to control the root of your problem so that your health is better. Do what the king did. Search out the matter to find out if these claims are actually true. Okay. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. That is one of my favorite verses. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the images of gold you have set up. Now, two things. Even if God doesn't deliver you or me, we are still to worship him. His life is in his hands. Our days are numbered. He is sovereign. He is good, and everything he does is good. So they pointed that out to the king. Even if our God doesn't, we won't. They were not going to disobey God's command. The other thing is, they called him your majesty. They were still showing him the proper respect. They weren't calling him God. They were giving him the title that this world put on him, that God allowed him to have. They were not filled with disrespect, mockery, or anything like that. They were functioning in a godly manner. Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual and commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these men, wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. What a job for those 3 soldiers, or those soldiers who died at the price of this fire. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement, asked his advisors, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, your majesty." He said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." Nebuchadnezzar then approached the openings of the blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants." I like how the king has praised the God of these 3 men who feared the Lord immediately after seeing this. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces and their houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. So they were promoted after they honored the Lord with their obedience and by fearing God only, not the king. Okay, Zach gave a lot of information in this sermon about the dream and interpretation and things like that. And I'm not going to go into this. I want to hit the big idea of kind of what he focused on at the end of his sermon. And the big idea is that little steps along the way lead to your big accomplishments, your big steps that require more strength. So little steps of obedience, little steps of faith, little steps of good living lead to these big, powerful, healthy accomplishments, these big accomplishments later on. And we all know this is true. Small steps make a big difference. Small hinges swing big doors. Do not despise the small things. The little bricks at a foundation of a building are just as important as the beautiful windows that you see. They serve a purpose. They're all important. Do not despise the small things, and the small things that you do to move forward in the direction of faith, in the direction of clear thinking, in the direction of a healthy body. Do not despise anything, no matter how boring or trivial it may seem. Drinking water, sleeping, giving thanks, reaching out to people, forgiving, all these things matter. Every morsel you eat affects your body. Every thought you think affects your body. Every bit of time you spend in God's word affects your whole being. It all matters. So do not despise everything that you do. Every little thing matters and it adds up. He cited a couple of people in history. One of them was Martin Luther, and also another great man of faith, John Huss. And he showed that John Huss was not delivered. He actually was, I think, burned at the stake. Martin Luther, however, create the Reformation. Wow, what a big, big historical moment in our history that still we talk about. Most of us are not going to be a Daniel or Shadrach or Meshach or an Abednego or Martin Luther. Most of us are not. Most of us are not going to find the cure for cancer or give the best sermon ever where the world is transformed by what we say. But we all have a calling that God can use. And what I want to point out is, even though we're not going to be infamous like these men or women of the faith, Florence Nightingale, who was a nurse, we all know her. Well, some of us do. Even though we might not have that fame, everything we do still matters in our little kingdom and in the little kingdom of people that we reach. And so that's what I want to point out to you, that each step of obedience leads to bigger steps of bigger obedience. So each step in health leads to bigger steps in health. So even though you might not be able to give up something that you know is harming you, let's say it's smoking, let's say it's drinking, let's say it is you just don't exercise at all, you don't have the strength or the stamina, let's say you don't even eat vegetables, let's say you eat far too much sugar or too many times out at fast food restaurants every week, let's say you eat late at night all the time, or you don't eat enough protein, or you eat way too much fat, or you know that you eat chips out of a bag every day, you eat the whole bag. Let's just say these things are too big for you to quit right away, to say no to, because your statue can be anything that you want so bad that you won't give up. That could be your 90-foot statue. Doesn't have to be King Nebuchadnezzar's statue or some god or some demand or mandate from the government. It can be just your own heart being the king of your own life, demanding you bow to your desire. So that's my challenge. What is your statue? What is the statue in your life that you are bowing to every day that you know is harming you, that will end up killing you like a fiery furnace? Is it bags of chips? Is it candy bars? Is it sugar? Is it fast food? Is it overeating in general? Is it unforgiveness? Is it the need for approval? Is it arrogance? Is it bitterness? Is it lack of exercise? Is it overscheduling yourself? Is it being a workaholic? Is it fear? Is it shopping? Who knows what it is? Is it manipulation? Who knows what it is? Is it lying? Is it gossip? Is it being one way in public and one way in your house? What is your statue that you are bowing to, that you cannot give up or conquer? My challenge to you, my advice to you is the same advice Zach gave, and also Pastor Arch did last week. At the beginning of the book of Daniel, it showed these men. They were already stellar, but they said, we're not going to eat that food. That seemed like a little matter. It was actually a big matter, but they obeyed at that level. If they hadn't obeyed at little levels, that seems so trivial. How would they obey at such a big level to have that stamina and faith? So don't expect to give up that big thing that you know you're addicted to or you want so bad. It's okay. Do little things. Your willpower, your strength, your mindset, little bits of improvement in your health will occur. It will grow. Take one step to accomplish something better for you. Maybe it's just writing notes of gratitude for people. That in itself strengthens your stamina. It increases your metabolism. It makes you have a better mindset. Maybe it is drinking more water. That helps regulate your blood sugar. Right there is huge. Maybe it's sleeping more. It is shown that getting adequate sleep is good for your health, which we all know, but it's also shown when you don't get adequate sleep, it leads to obesity or belly fat. It's increased cortisol. Anything you do will matter. So think about little steps you know you can take. Maybe it's just going to start walking 5 minutes a day, maybe 10 minutes a day, or riding a bike just 15 minutes a day. Something you can do. Maybe it's just squats. You're going to start with 10, then you're going to do 20. Maybe you're going to do 10 5 times a day, just something. Maybe it's parking farther from the grocery store or the shopping center. Something you can do. Small steps will lead to a big, big step. It all matters. Do not despise the small things. Your strength will grow. And the verse that I love from Jesus, he who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. These little things matter. If you can't be faithful in little things, in little steps, you can't make big strides. God will not give you more than you can handle. So I encourage you with that. Don't expect a King Nebuchadnezzar statue to appear to you so you can make a big accomplishment in your life. Do the little things that no one sees, but you and God know. And then you either will suffer or you will enjoy the consequence of it. It all matters. And God is faithful. He began a good work in you and he will be faithful to complete it. Okay, that's my connection to health from the sermon on October 23rd from Daniel 3 given by Pastor Zach. I hope you learned something and were encouraged. And remember, the whole reason for health is to be able to do God's will. We want to enhance our health for the benefit of everyone for eternity. It's not just about you. It's about your circle, your family, of course, your church, your entire world. It all matters. Do one thing this week. Take one thing, part of that statue. Take one thing and say, say no to it. Okay, bye-bye, everyone. See you next week.